Hi, welcome back. This is going to be the ninth episode, and I'm not going to spend all of my time narrating, so I'll try to just dive in here. Looking at Trello, I haven't worked on this in a few days, so one of the things I like to do is find something to kind of refactor to get back into the swing of things. Usually, get profiles for location. Usually that like kind of helps. I know how to refactor no matter what domain I'm in or where in the code base I am or what have you. So that is something I can usually dive into to sort of get my mojo back. Okay, so I'm saying this method. Let me close everything else here because I've confused myself a little. No. This method I'm saying could use some cleanup. Why did I say that? Well, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of having this conditional logic in here. It's actually a little bit denser than it appears because I have the creation with the initializer. And secondly, I probably didn't like this very similar sort of thing. Gosh. So I'm going to get the query, and then I'm going to return. I guess there's not. I don't know what I meant by this exactly. Like, I don't see a ton of things in here necessarily to do. It could be a little better, I suppose. End crunch with acceptance test that hit GitHub. That is done. Okay, so onward. Let us then non-happy path tests around get profiles for location. Let me do that because I feel like that will kind of let me get going in a little gentler fashion. So I'm saying it should return a profile with first name Eric when GitHub Inquisitor returns result string Eric Dietrich. Return empty enumeration for nonsense. So I guess if location text is null, like that's a non-happy path thing, what do I then want to do? Let's see. Probably, if I'm calling this method, so I'm going to anticipate later maybe adding different methods where I search by different parameters. I don't want my API to be, if I don't want to specify a location, pass in null for a location. Ergo, I'm going to work backwards and say, throw an argument null exception. And call my trusty extended assert. My apologies, I'm working here somewhere there's a train, so you might be hearing that train in the background. And we want actually an argument null exception. And that's going to be when we call target.get profiles for location null. And currently it doesn't, so now I'm going to do something interesting here that's a little off the beaten path, but like let's see. So I want to test that it throws an exception, but I also want to just write a quick, you know what? I don't want to keep it as a test because I don't care that much. I just want to run the exception for the sake of my own knowledge. Let's see, try. So what I'm going to do is try this. I'm going to catch the exception, and then what I want to do is assert that I want to see what the message is with using this name of construct, because I've never actually tried that out. So let's see. I suspect that it's going to be location text. It's not. Oh, that's interesting. So, it is doing it. Parameter name, I don't know if you can see it there easily, but the message says expected location text. Actual was value cannot be null, parameter name, location text. So that satisfies my curiosity. Apologies for the divergence, but that's not a test that I probably want to like keep in there for posterity. It's not particularly expressive. I tend to find it to be acceptable just to say, here's the kind of exception that gets thrown without like going into a ton of detail unless there's some very specific cases to why. Okay, now this method is depending on an externality. So if we go in here, there's another happy path thing that we don't control, which is in essence, what do we do if execute URL query throws an exception? And I don't fully know what kind of exceptions that might throw. So if it throws an exception, I think we're public facing here. So whatever kind of exception is getting thrown there, I don't want to just like turn around and cough back up to the user, because execute URL query, because the inquisitor is something that we'll control. But whatever exceptions might happen going out and doing stuff on GitHub, we don't control that. So I'm going to take this opportunity, I think, to handle just a generalized thing here. So in this method, we're saying, hey, if you've given us a null parameter, that's a problem. But assuming you haven't, we're going to go out and do stuff on GitHub. So the question is, what do we want to do if go out and get stuff on GitHub goes wrong for sort of indeterminate at this point reasons? We'd have two options. Basically, we could... Well, I could see three options. We could eat the exception and just return an empty enumeration. I don't like that here because it's not expressive. It doesn't differentiate between you searched for something and there was nothing, or you searched for something and we made a mistake. Sorry. So I'm not going to return an empty enumeration now. The other thing I can do is I can rethrow whatever exception comes back wrapped in. Actually, this is what I'll do. Okay. So what I want to do is say throw a, what would we call it here? I'm going to wrap the whatever exception in a new domain specific exception and throw that. That way we preserve the whole stack trace for our caller. And we add a bit of information that's custom here. So let's see. Inquisitor execute URL query. I guess I'll call it should throw a GitHub querying exception when inquisitor execute URL query throws exception. So if you're watching this and you're not familiar with just mock, you'll get to see something new here. Basically, we're going to say, we're going to arrange the inquisitor. Yes. Get URL. I don't know why IntelliSense. Oh, execute. IntelliSense has been having a little trouble with this lately. And we don't care what string. We're going to say if you pass it any string. And here we're going to say throws. There we go. Let's say it throws an exception. Now, what did I call this? A GitHub querying exception, which doesn't exist. So we need to make it exist. And this is the first bit of like folder housekeeping I'm going to do, because there's just a different sort of thing here. I don't want this. Eventually, these will probably kind of fall into like domain objects and services, and then we'll have exceptions. But like, I don't really want. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a great thing to have this cluttering things up. So we will do this. I'll rename it. I'll make it public. Oops. Rename the file to match it. A lot of action here. Okay. And we'll have it inherit from exception. Now, if we go back here, our failing test should now not be failing due to non-compiling. And we're going to say target.execute and get profiles for location. I like to be a little bit more deliberate. And we're failing. Fine. And the reason we're failing is because there's an exception that's happening here, and we're not handling it. Oh, for goodness sake. I don't really know what it is. Ever since getting this new Visual Studio, the typing in IntelliSense has been subtly out of sync somehow with what I'm used to. So I'm making like more mistakes than I normally do. And why don't you like this? Oh, because I haven't. Really, I don't get that constructor from the parent? Oh, because it needs a message too. Okay, fine. Fine. No, I don't want to go making up constructors just for that. Okay. What do we want to tell people here? The problem occurred searching to maybe make this more descriptive later. What? No, that's not right. It's this constructor right here. I wonder if IntelliSense is just not like getting rid of the errors. Okay, so I don't for the life of me understand that. Let's see. Does not contain a constructor that takes 2 arguments. C# does not contain a constructor, takes 2 arguments. Hopefully some other soul out here has done the same dumb thing. This has nothing to do with it. Let me see. If I go in here and define the constructor, They changed the rules of inheritance on me? I must admit I'm a bit rusty, but this is bizarre. Declare constructor. String exception. So let's see if this works. It does. Now, public class exception. Huh. Everything's working, but I'm one thing I always counsel people is don't just like, you know, say, hey, it works, whatever. I want to figure out why that was necessary. The type caught or thrown must be derived from system to... Oh. Well. That solves that mystery. There is no argument that corresponds to the required formal parameter message. Why can't it find the parents? I feel like I'm just forgetting like the basic rules of inheritance or something, but exception. This is where recording my every move on a project is sort of embarrassing. Inheriting parent. Okay, I should probably specify the language. No, I've actually figured that one out. And want to pass something from the constructor of the inherited class. What if I just want to use the parent class constructors? Call the... How do I inherit constructors? You will have to implement the constructors that make sense for each derivation. Use the base keyword. Is there no way to inherit constructors? Wait, really? I wonder if I've just been in Java too long and I'm like confusing all my languages together in one sort of senseless mass. Let's see. Well, nothing like an experiment. This is probably riveting. Now, if we say var SUV equals sure enough. Turns out I'm just not really a C# programmer anymore. That's kind of funny. Anyway, lesson learned. I guess now that I've learned that lesson, I am back to being a C# programmer. So I can do that. I have a vague recollection of getting like a squiggly under here if I don't implement those constructors. At any rate, I have no tests covering them, so I'm not going to implement them. Now, having solved all the mysteries, it's kind of back to the problem at hand here, and the problem at hand is that this is turning into sort of an ugly method. So we've got this like precondition check. we can probably pull out like a sub method. Let me see what this looks like if we extract it. So it takes the, oh boy. Should return. So it's not just that simple. Well, this is the 20-minute mark and everything's green. So what I'm going to do is check this in, even though it's, well, before I even do that, commit. We did get those tests around, so we really need to refactor, get profiles for location. And I'm just going to add that to in progress because that's pretty brutal. But I will commit and then push up to GitHub. Enter a commit message, episode 9. Unhappy path tests around get profiles for a location. Sync it on up. And looking good. All right, tune in next time.